Hi, welcome to the new voting project. My name is Kunal, your host, and today we have a very special guest all the way from Washington University in St. Louis, Otto Brown, who is the co-chair of WashU Votes. He's also a student union treasury representative, a civic scholar at the university, one who also interacts with the community engagement and civic center at WashU, and an at-large member of the University Student Affairs Advisory Board. Thank you so much for taking the time to come onto the show. I do really appreciate it. I understand college students are busy. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Happy to, chat about voting and yeah, I live this stuff, so really excited to chat.
Let's do it then. Let's get into these questions. Just for our viewers, talk a little bit about your background, how you got into the voting rights space, and then touch on how your college experience, your junior at WashU, how is that preparing you for your career in this field?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm a junior studying econ and political science, double major in those two areas. Um, I'm originally from Chicago and have spent the last couple of years here in St. Louis studying at WashU. I'm really involved in WashU Votes. WashU Votes is the nonpartisan student engagement arm of the Gephardt Institute for Civic and Community Engagement here. So really focusing on how do we provide students with the tools and information that they need to cast a vote, to cast their ballot. Um, we do a lot of voter registration stuff here, a lot of voter education, and some administrative stuff as well. So with the Institute here working on bringing polling places to campus so that students have easier time accessing polling locations, providing students with the opportunity to engage and think about St. Louis in the broader context, how we as college students who are here for 4 years really have an impact and play a role in the St. Louis community, and then learning about St. Louis as well. So, WashU straddles the boundary between St. Louis City and St. Louis County. St. Louis City is itself a county. So, what are the different things that are going on? So you have St. Louis City doing some things, St. Louis County doing others, really providing students with the context and tools to engage in that voting space, but also that broader education space as well.
Yeah. No, that sounds very interesting. I could understand the different layers of how the counties and cities will work together to ensure students are voting and registering to vote, especially if the elections tangle, right? And that's usually the case. So no, that's great. So I guess my next question is why choose this? You could your first day at college, you're signing up for clubs. Why WashU Votes? Why this kind of community organizing and in some ways activism in the current political climate?
Yeah, so my first exposure to the Gephardt Institute was through the Democratic debate watch parties that they were holding in the fall of
Oh,
2019.
it wasn't there a presidential debate hosted at WashU at some point?
WashU has hosted five
Yeah.
presidential and vice presidential debates in the past. There was one in 2016,
Yes.
but we did not host. We didn't put in a bid to host one in 2020. We were going through some administrative, or we were moving from one chancellor to another, and the university decided not to put in a bid. So, but in 2016, that was a big
Yeah,
from
I
people.
remember watching that debate actually.
Yeah, people always talked about it here. It's an experience that people love and never forget because a lot of students get access to watch it live. But yeah, hopefully, we're fingers crossed for 2024. We'll be back in the bid.
No, that's great. And I guess what is some of the work that you do with WashU Votes? You kind of talked about the purpose and the goal of the organization. How does it tie into the total kind of institute's work? What's their purpose? And what are the things that you're trying to accomplish? Right? What are the policy objectives you're trying to reach? What are the benchmarks?
Yeah, so it's a great question. The institute is focused on civic and community engagement,
Mhm.
and WashU Votes falls under that civic engagement side of the institute. A lot of the work that happens here is really important as it relates to, inter-university relations, as well as exposing students and providing them with the resources and tools to access additional things in St. Louis. So additional opportunities, educational opportunities, as well as just knowledge. So one way that the institute does that is the Civic Scholars Program. I'm part of that as well.
Right.
And that's a cohort-based program that's 2 years long that provides students with a stipend for the
Right.
summer between their junior and senior year of college, where they take that money and they do a civic project of their choosing, either in St. Louis or wherever they'd like to go. So really providing students with opportunities is what the institute really prides itself on. At WashU Votes, what we're really focused on is the undergraduate voting experience, but also making sure that people are registered to vote, know how to vote, and actually do vote. And when they do vote, making sure that it's an informed vote. So there are lots of different layers that we're kind of dealing with here. It's the, do I register here in St. Louis? Do I stay registered at home? If I choose to register at home or stay registered, how do I request an absentee ballot? If I need a notary, where do I find a notary? Um, Lots of those different multi-layered things. And really, I think of it as providing students the tools at the beginning of their voting career, right? It's not a career, right? But when you start and provide people the tools at the beginning, they'll take those lessons and those tools and bring them with them for the rest of their lives. So really highlighting the importance of civic engagement, like and civic engagement doesn't just stop. It doesn't just stop with voting. It's
Right.
one of many tools, but we're really focused at WashU Votes on making sure that people have those tools to become better informed and better engaged citizens for the rest of their lives.
Right. Yeah, and it often perpetuates a habitual cycle of voting, which I think is key. If you vote at 18, you're going to be voting until you probably die, which is great. Not the dying part, but the voting part. Um, and in other ways, you mentioned voting is not a silver bullet, right? It's not the end all be all. There are definitely some other ways you can get involved, and I'm sure the institute has some other ways. Other ways can potentially be getting involved in campaigns, even running for office. That's great. So no, do keep that in mind. But voting is definitely step one. Being registered to vote, step one. Um, Now, the essence of this channel is to kind of discuss the trend of voting rights in our country. Um, I believe Missouri has a senator who is very frowned upon, I should say, from like the liberal progressive wing of politics. What do you think? And this ties into the 2020 election in some ways. What do you see as potential solutions to the issues we face in the voting rights context uh, going into, I guess, the next elections?
Yeah. So one thing to highlight again is that the work of the institute is nonpartisan.
Yes.
So as it relates to you know talking about the positions, we can talk about positions, but as it relates to parties or particular stances of particular politicians, that's not really the space that the institute kind of occupies. There are a lot of partisan groups on this campus
Hmm.
that take positions on different issues one way or the other. And what we really pride ourselves on here is that this is a space where we support students and student groups who are taking those positions by giving them the tools that they need in the nonpartisan context. So we really center ourselves in terms of providing everyone with tools to register to vote. We don't make distinctions based on who you support or political party or anything like that. And we're really here to provide resources for those students. As it relates to voting rights, we're tracking legislation that moves and is moving through the Missouri House and Senate, and that will be enacted. And we are ready to respond and support students, however that, if that legislation passes, we're ready to mobilize and change our approach and really get things going. Um, Other groups do issue advocacy on a number of different things
Hmm.
as part of the university, right? Like, we're not a student group. I mean, we straddle this line between being a student group and being um, an entity under the Gephardt Institute, which is takes on this nonpartisanship from the university as well.
Hmm.
So this is one of these foggy areas where I'm going to give you this is going to be the answer that you get from me because in this capacity as the co-chair of WashU Votes, this is we're focused on supporting students in that nonpartisan space.
Hmm. And if I were to hypothetically ask you, uh, just beyond your capacity, right? We're just looking at you as a voter in St. Louis, or maybe if you're not registered there, just a voter in general. What would be your thoughts on the current state of voting in the United States?
I think if you were to ask me that, I'd have to take this shirt off. This is the shirt that only
Yeah, and
WashU
you're
Votes.
on your retreat, and
Right.
currently in your retreat. So we'll
That's
avoid
right.
the controversy.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I'd have to take the shirt off because only exec members get the gray shirt. So,
oh,
but if you find me some other time wearing a different shirt, you can
yeah.
ask me and I'll give you my 2 cents.
I'll look for the white polo. I'll look for it. Uh, so yeah, I mean, in other ways, do and I guess why do you think voting is important? You know, it seems so fundamental. It seems like people should know the answer to this. But why is it important? Like, what does it actually do? You know what I mean?
Mhm. It's a great question, and we grapple with this ourselves. I mean, the entire exec team and the entire general body of WashU Votes, we ask ourselves these questions. Um, we did an activity last spring or last fall where we had posters that say "Why I Vote," and the answers ranged greatly. For some people, it's you know I vote because my parents can't because my parents aren't U.S. citizens, um, or I vote because I'm really passionate about XYZ issue. Um, there are lots of different people or lots of different reasons why people vote.
Hmm.
Um, for me personally, my parents really ingrained this idea of civic engagement and voting in me from the time that I was basically born. Um, my I went with my parents to vote in every election, municipal, citywide, statewide, federal. We went. It's voting. It's election day. We're at the polls before school, and then we go to school. Um, and it was kind of just one of these things that I always grew up with because they viewed it as being important. So, I mean, I grew up thinking it was important, and after I went off to college, still think it's really important. It is a direct way for us to engage with the people who are supposed to represent us. It's not the only way. You can write letters and to your local elected officials. You can attend city council meetings. Um, you can, protest. You can do all these other things that are related to civic engagement. And this is another one of those things that you can do um, that relates directly to someone's ability to be in office and be your representative. Because whether you vote or not, that person represents the area in which you live and is supposed to represent your interests. So, decisions are made by those who show up. And I think this is a way for people to, make sure that the people who are in those positions are listening to them.
Right. It's the easiest way to distill it is if you're not voting, somebody else is, and their vote is making a choice for you. And people don't like it when other people make choices for them. I see that. I see that comment a lot. So that's I think the simplest way of telling somebody you should get out and vote because it matters. I've seen elections come down to tens of votes, like
Mhm.
6 votes. I've also seen elections come down to hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands of votes. Right? It's just in the context of where you're voting. right? I mean, these people you mentioned, city council, they're determining budgets, right? School board are determining budgets. They're setting the agendas. They're gonna make policy priorities based on what they want. And if that's not a reflection of what you want in your own, vicinity, then you're not making the right choices. You need to take that step of making sure you're shaping your own future, and not letting somebody else do that. So so I think it's very clear that voting is important, but not the only way to be involved. If you want to take it like 3 steps further, run for office, please. We need more. We need better representation. I think that's a separate podcast, but in other ways, we need better representation. Um, so yes, voting very important. Uh, Now, I always like to ask this question of everybody that comes on, which is, what is your advice? Right? We see our generation. You're Gen Z, right? Yes, Gen Z.
I think, yeah, I was born in 2000. I'm one of
Yeah.
these people. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. All right. Anyway, I don't even know what Gen Z means, but we just say it, right? Uh, Gen Z. How do we make an impact on voting, on elections, on policy? Wanting to be engaged, what are some of the ways you would recommend for us to do that? Because that is essentially the answer, right? Opportunity. What is the opportunity out there for us?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity. And I think it's really just about capitalizing on that and recognizing what you think is important. So obviously, I will say when you turn 18, register to vote. And then learn about the elections that are coming up, learn about what's on the ballot. We talked about this earlier today, here at our retreat for WashU Votes, but um, the Metropolitan Sewer District has bond measures that appear on ballots for people to vote on. Educate yourself about why that's something that you should care about, because it is, right? And you have to decide whether to vote for the bond or not. Um, and you should have an understanding of why that's on the ballot and why that's important and why it's being put to you as a voter to decide. Um, I think in addition to that, thinking about other ways to get involved. So if that's supporting a political candidate that you think will do a good job representing your interests, figuring out if you can phone bank, if you can support them in other ways, supporting issues. We have a lot of organizations here on campus that are issue based groups. So it's not supporting one candidate or another, but it's supporting an environmental issue around the environment, or issues around criminal justice, or issues about reproductive rights, things like that. So, understanding, becoming educated, and then really acting on those interests. Because, I always think about it this way, and this is how there was a campaign that I saw. It was from Now This. It was on Facebook, probably in 2018,
Mm,
and um, it was it was a bunch of old people, you know, saying that they were going to vote because they've shown up to vote on every election, and they get to, it's the people who show up who get to make the decisions, right? So if young people aren't showing up, then it's these old people that are making decisions. But who is going to be around longer, and who is going to be, the person who has to deal with the brunt of those decisions? It's going to be young people. So, we have a longer future to vote for, and a longer future to advocate for, and a longer future to um, be around for, and change and make sure that it looks like the future that we want. Um, so I think that's really a motivator for me. And I think if people think about it in that way, I think that's a motivator for a lot of other people as well.
yeah, just do it. Just Nike it. Just do it. Um, and it might help. Uh, but yes. Now, this is the only part of the show where you can promote yourself. So, do you want to pull out some websites or some social medias? I'll link them all in the description below, for WashU or for yourself too, if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a really killer Instagram account that we've got a lot of big plans for this year. It's at WashU Votes.
Okay.
So we've got a great social media chair, Amelia. The other co-chair with me, Spencer, was formerly our social media chair. So they've both got a lot of great insights as to how to engage people on social media. Um, so yeah, I would say drop a follow for the WashU Votes account. I like our content. I think it's really good, and it's not just it's voter education as well. So we just put up a post the other day about redistricting and why that's important in St. Louis City and how that impacts people who live. Um, our campus is again split St. Louis County, St. Louis City. There are some students that live in St. Louis City, so really focusing on why it matters for them about redistricting and um, just you should be aware of these things that are going on, so
Right.
really just educating folks on that.
Yeah. No, definitely. And y'all got to get Twitter, but I'll put the Instagram in there.
Yeah, we've got a Facebook that's a little dormant,
Okay.
so we're gonna see if we can whip that back up. And yeah, we're exploring our social media options. Instagram is big here
Oh,
um,
okay.
on our campus.
Might be a
It's
culprit.
always Yeah, it's always hard because each campus has its own context. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, thinking about how we reach more students, and Instagram is pretty much the best way to do that here.
Good. Yeah, no, I'll link it below. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Do appreciate it. Have fun at your retreat. And you're always welcome back anytime to share big news. I do always appreciate the insight, and I think folks will find that student perspective. I mean, you're a student on campus. You're going to deal with these issues for the rest of your life, and the fact that you've dedicated yourself to them so early, I think is very inspiring. So thank you for the work that you do. And yeah, you're always welcome back.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the chance to chat and talk a little bit about what we do here at WashU Vote. So thanks for that too.
Exactly. No, and take care. And yeah, stay safe.
Thank you. You too.